cares about the fans. Black Widow came out yesterday, and
The savior of the box
yeah.
office.
Oh yeah, that too. Like it's doing pretty
Yeah,
well
actually.
at the box office, even
It
better
had
than Fast 9. That was surprising.
yeah, it had a bigger Thursday opening, I think,
Yeah.
right?
It's double the
Yeah.
opening of
13
Fast
million,
9.
yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
13 million.
it's close to I think it's like close to pre-pandemic numbers.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
It's set to open at
Yeah,
88 million, 88.5 million domestically.
that's right.
So yeah, that's the biggest of the pandemic era. And that's pretty good.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
So what are your thoughts on this movie, Mar? What did you think of it?
Yeah. Okay. So the first trailer came out. I don't know how long ago it was.
November
It was like
2019.
years ago. Was it? Well,
Yeah, I think so.
I thought that trailer was pretty good, and I was pumped for Black Widow. But then it got delayed and delayed, and I kind of fell out in love with it. More trailers came. Who's got Alex? Did he leave?
No, man.
All right, you went missing on mine. Okay. But yeah, I thought the newest trailers weren't as interesting or weren't as good. So what my kind of hype went down a bit. But I watched it today, and the opening sequence before the credits, kind of Black Widow comes up, and then the scene after that as well. It's just really, really good and really, really dark. And I was surprised. And there's two kind of songs that play that I love, and I was surprised to see them in a Marvel movie. And it didn't seem like a Marvel cinematic movie at all. It really didn't. And I thought to myself, wow, is this going to be something absolutely different and unique? And for the most part, it was for maybe the first 50 minutes or 55 minutes. After that, the story just gets a little bit uninteresting for me, and I think the final act has a lot of poor CGI and the cliche hero villain talk. My master plan. Just I've seen it before, and this time it was just a little bit confusing and just I didn't care for it whatsoever. And Taskmaster looks brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but we don't get to see enough. I'd say we get about maybe 10 minutes of the character. That's about it. It felt like a Joker Suicide Squad thing to me. I don't know if there was a lot cut out of it or what, but the character was brilliant, but we just didn't get to see enough of it, which I was annoyed at. And he was as cool, or she was as cool as the Winter Soldier character from when he was first introduced. How badass it was, the action sequences and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was a little bit of a misstep. Other than that, like David Harbour is it?
Yeah.
Things. He was funny, but I just didn't care for the characters that much. There was no Tony Stark in Civil War when he sees his mother and father get killed by the Winter Soldier, or when Spider-Man kind of crumbles in his hands or he dusts away. There was no scene like that. I didn't feel for Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow or Florence Pugh's character. I just did not care because I knew she's dead, or maybe that was a misstep by the script or the direction. There was no scene that got me kind of teary-eyed or really feeling for these characters. Which was a shame because I enjoyed the first 50 minutes and I thought it was really good. CGI in the last act is pretty poor, but I can forgive that if the action is good. And it wasn't that good in the last few minutes. Then the movie just kind of ends without any kind of sign that this is the ending of the movie. Just kind of over. It was surprising, but yeah, I think Black Widow is an okay movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, I just wish the first 50 minutes was as good as the last hour and 10 minutes or whatever it was. But Scarlett Johansson's great, but this movie should have happened 10 years ago or 6 years ago. It should have been the first XU female-led movie, I think. And I think I don't like or Captain Marvel, I mean. I don't like that movie. But this is way better than that, I think. And
totally.
I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh was brilliant. Florence Pugh was fantastic. I want to see more of her. And yeah, but the movie isn't terrible, right? I just think the second half could have been better. And Rachel Weisz is it, her character, David Harbour, they're fine, but I just didn't.
You didn't care.
Yeah.
I agree pretty much with your assessment of it. Like, should have been released 10 years ago, maybe 6, 5. And also just like with the characters, yeah, like I didn't really like. They wanted me to care, to have that connection, like this familiar connection with them. but I didn't because like there were times when the film should have paused for it to breathe, so we can have those connections, and it didn't happen within there, and just it really derailed for the third act, which was kind of disappointing because it actually I was pleasantly surprised how I was enjoying the film, even though a lot of it was predictable, especially with Taskmaster and the Big Bad. Like it was choreographed from the beginning, but I feel like this would have been better served as like a 6 or 10 episode series than an actual film because of those connections of the opening of the Red Room with the other widows. There is a good story within this thinly veiled plot that they try to turn out for 2 hours. That they could have made something that would have like had more connection to Garrett Harbor, Rachel Weisz, also with Florence Pugh, who was fucking brilliant, and she should have been more on screen. And I didn't expect her to outclass Scarlett Johansson in her first Marvel film, which I was surprised.
Yeah, I think
Philip,
I kind of agree with you guys. And sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say, I was interested to see what the hype is because he's going to see it tonight, which is very excited for. But like even before now, I hear in our talks, how excited were you for it?
Well, I have my excitement leveled because normally, superhero movies are my jam. I have a superhero podcast. I really do like seeing them on or around opening day or weekend. This Black Widow, basically to everyone's points that we all just heard, largely the reason why I waited not to see it, Thursday, Friday opening night. Also because, just busy at work, coming home, got stuff to do, cat to take care of, other things and such like that. So I'd rather just wait to see it with my friend who I'm going to see it, here in a couple hours. But, to your guys' points, like I'm my excitement lies with the cast because I'm a huge, I like Scarlett Johansson just fine, even though she said some pretty questionable things today from that one interview. But the other rest of the cast, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, Florence Pugh, you've got me there. Like I'm interested to see what those characters do in the MCU, where they end up by the end of this movie. It sounds like, based on everyone here, that the first half of the movie is spectacular and it begins to fall apart in the second half of the movie. And I'm like, well, okay, that's sounds par for the course considering the studio that made the movie and the way that they've made movies for the last couple of years. And I do think that, this movie should have been, to Maher's point, like it should have been one that they should have made a couple of years ago. It should have been their first female superhero movie. And, Ike Perlmutter's opinions or whatever be damned, like they really should have done this sooner, in my humble opinion. But I'm happy to take what I can get now. I'm curious to see how this movie plays out, considering that the main character is dead in the canonical timeline. So it'll be interesting to see how things wrap up. There has been one thing spoiled for me, which I'm not really going to talk about, but I know something about Taskmaster, but I don't know like the exact specifics behind it. So I'm curious to see just how all of that will play out. As far as Taskmaster on the whole, if the character's in the movie for 10 minutes more or less, like that's disappointing. But I think the look of the character is as best that they were going to get it adaptation-wise as far as the MCU, because the MCU, they either get it really, really right, or they just, you've got the MCU version of that character. And I feel like Taskmaster is the MCU version of the Taskmaster. And that's not a bad thing. I like this. I like the shield and the hood and the skeletal face mask, but other than that, like, we'll see. I'll let you guys know how I feel about it when I'm walking out of the theater here in a couple hours.
I don't know if it was deliberate, but definitely keep an eye out for Taskmaster, the way that the character fights and the way the character looks. Because just keep an eye on that, because I don't know if they took inspiration from other characters.
No, because
it looks like they did.
No, because I think that I don't know if this is a spoiler, because people started thinking about this in the based on the trailers alone, and I've seen this theory passed around before even the movie came out and when the trailers were going around. So I don't think that's a spoiler. But from the fighting styles of Taskmaster, it kind of the character kind of gives the vibe of he was made based on the Avengers, right? In some scenes he acts like Hawkeye. He has a bow and arrow. In some scenes,
Black Panther gauntlets.
yeah, the
Mhm.
Black Panther thing that's in the trailer as well. So, based on that, a lot of people thought that that character was probably modeled after the fighting styles of Avengers, and all the Avengers fighting styles into one character. But I think they should have done more than what we got. I don't think they did that justice. I think it was just a throwaway thing in the movie. The character, however, is not that big for the movie. Like, it's not. I don't think that character is that important for the movie. There's only one or two scenes that the character was used for. But I think that well, I won't go into that. But I think that
Well, they're big scenes.
yes,
They're big
yeah,
action scenes as well.
That
So
makes sense.
they are
yeah,
worth
Yeah.
they're worth watching. And
yeah,
like this film is like, it's not terrible. And we're just kind of being critical of certain.
Yeah.
Like I think if you had more depth,
It's
to it,
good.
yeah.
yeah, it is good. It is good.
Sounds
I
like a
enjoyed
middle of the road Marvel movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
It
think
sounds
it's
like.
way, way, way,
I'd
way
watch it
better
again.
than Captain Marvel. Just on a technical
Yeah,
level,
big time.
even including that bad
Yeah.
CGI shot, on a technical level, everything, like, it's way better than Captain Marvel. I think this movie should have come out right after Civil War, and it would have had a much bigger impact, because I also think that they should have added. Now I'm getting into stuff that I wish I would see, but I just don't think that this, negates the movie for me. But I just wish I could see these things. Like, I would have loved to see more Shield Hydra stuff in this movie. A more covert operation. Maybe lean into more of the spy stuff. At least for half of the movie. And then you can go on to the big action stuff in the third act. But they did some of that, and I think there are some plot twists that are pretty good, which I didn't see it coming. Although I kind of predicted what it was, but I didn't see how they were doing it, and that was pretty cool to see. And it was a good callback to the other movies. I think they kind of paid homages to the Winter Soldier, which was amazing. But also, it's a very different movie than that. It's not just a plot point by plot point copy. I also would have loved to see what happened in Budapest with Hawkeye. At least a scene, but we didn't get that.
They might be saving that for the Hawkeye series.
Yeah, probably.
true. Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. I wish I would have seen that, but it was not there. But it didn't take away anything from the movie. I just think that the movie is still good, and I was not expecting much from it, so I wasn't disappointed. And as for the performances, like everyone's saying, Florence Pugh is just amazing, like I expected. She's
Her-
always amazing.
Her comedy timing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Not like every
Oh,
time
she was great.
Yeah.
go. Her comedy timing
Yeah.
is brilliant.
yeah, and
She could be in that film with Eddie Murphy
Yeah.
or any of the best comedians. She'd hold her own.
yeah, she's an amazing
The buzz
actress.
surrounding her performance is great.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress, and there was no doubt that she would be better than Scarlett. I think that she has more acting range than Scarlett, and that showed. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But yeah, Scarlett is pretty great in the role. I always liked Scarlett's Natasha in the MCU in the supporting role, because she is a great friend to Steve, and that's what I always get the vibe from Natasha. She's a great friend, and although she did something in Civil War which would not hold true to that, but I still think she plays that part very well. Like, she's not a stone cold killer, or just a big wannabe hero type of character. She is a friend. She tries to understand stuff, and she has her haunted past. And I love all those layers to that character a lot. And all of that was brilliantly done again here with Scarlett, and she plays that part pretty well. As for Yelena's character, I think she is pretty good, and I'm hoping to see more of her in the future. And Yes, and Red Guardian, of course, was pretty good. It was hilarious, and David Harbour just he's pretty funny, but also there's a lot of different layers to the character, which I will not get into because it's spoilers. But yeah, I really like that as well. So overall, I would say that this movie is pretty good. I was not expecting it to be pretty good, but it was. And so a lot of people are hating on it because of variety of reasons. I don't know why, but um, it's fine. You don't expect that it will be the next Avengers, and why would you expect that? I don't know, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
fine as a solo movie. I think you should definitely watch it.
One thing I
Just
definitely like.
ignore Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Alex. Ignore Twitter. One thing I think I really like that they finally did was they put her in the white suit. I feel like that was a long time coming.
Yeah.
Because that's just a really nice visual cue for her. Because just she's got this really dark red hair, but like that white action suit, it's pretty synonymous with her comic book look. And
Mhm.
I felt like they should have done that a long time ago. But glad to see it here be utilized. I guess if I'm looking forward to that, it'll be to see that suit in action
Mhm.
more than anything.
But yeah, to Alex's point about, it probably would have done better as a series, I think that's pretty much on point. I didn't think that while watching the movie, but now that you said it, I think that, they probably would have, dove deeper into the spy aspect and, had more stuff to do with the villain before he turned up to set him up, which they kind of lacked in this one. And you know that would have helped, I think.
Yeah.
This
And
one-
also the repercussions of the Red Room as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of story
Yeah.
that they could have done.
I thought they would
Mm.
go more into the Red Room stuff, but they didn't. Like,
Yeah.
To my point.
like
This-
that's what I was kind of hoping to see, because we know Black Widow's kind of backstory from the Avengers movies and the Winter Soldier and all those stuff, when she mentioned those stuff, and we have a couple of flashbacks here and there, right? So those things not being shown here kind of was the missing thing, I think, because the Shield Hydra stuff wasn't there. The constantly brought up thing with what happened in Budapest thing was not here, and the flashback of actually Scarlet getting into the Red Room and being brainwashed and all that stuff wasn't here. So I think that maybe they already covered that, so they didn't want to explore that even further, but I would have loved to see it.
There's also like a shot. A lot of directors kind of get shit at times, especially male directors, for kind of shots of the behind
was
female
gonna- yeah.
actresses.
I'm glad
of
you brought it
their-
up.
Of their behind,
Mhm.
so of their ass. Okay.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people online say, "Oh, this director's a pervert.
Yeah.
This director is trying to womanize, sexualize women, stuff like that." I was surprised at the amount of shots
Yeah.
of Scarlett Johansson in the opening kind of few minutes of her behind, and like I never looked at it as a pervy kind of way. It's a directing style, and I think this is a good example. This is a female director that decided to do those shots
Yeah.
of Scarlett Johansson because she's holding something in her hand, or because
Right.
she's walking towards something. Because it's a directing style. It's not because the director wants to
Yeah.
get a good shot of her behind. Some movies they do that on purpose, of course, but I think you would have seen that maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Charlie Angels and stuff like that, maybe.
That actually
Tomb
kind of
Raider,
bugged me in the
stuff
movie,
like that.
because there was not just one or two. There was like a couple of them, and I was like,
With
why?
loads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
I'm
of
like,
them is fine because
was a-
she had
this
a
was-
blonde
yeah.
hair color thing in her hand, so
Yeah.
that actually had purpose.
You know-
But the others didn't.
Yeah. I was so taken aback by it because we're living in a world
Yeah.
now where everything is kind of judged and like female empowerment and stuff like that. I was surprised to see that. You guys, when you watched or Philip, you watched the movie, you probably spotted straight away.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised there's so much of her behind being shown here because you don't really see that as much anymore. So, but I'm just saying, if it was a male director directed this movie and those shots were in the movie, there'd be a lot of shit online about it right now.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yep.
And also
I just wanted to
Yelena's
say that
pose thing was hilarious.
The poser.
I've heard about that. I'm
Right.
excited to see what that
That was
reference is about.
hilarious.